I want to talk to you today about something. Of course, I think many of you saw what happened in the news with regards to Bible prophecy. You might say things are heating up just a little bit. Things are happening quite rapidly, significantly in the Middle East as we focus our attention every Sunday and look at what is happening on God's prophetic clock, as Israel is called. For today's update, I want to revisit actually a very profound and important Bible prophecy as it relates to Jerusalem. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that hasn't heard about or heard discussed the quote-unquote two-state solution. What's the two-state solution? Well, you usually hear it couched in terms of Jews and Palestinians living side by side in peace and security. Many of you could probably fill in the blanks. That's interesting that we hear those particular words used in that particular order, because that's exactly what the Apostle Paul said would happen in the last days before the Lord's return. He says to the Thessalonian church that when they say peace and security, then sudden destruction will come as upon a woman in labor. Not the destruction comes upon a woman in labor, but the analogy is, the illustration is that Jesus' return will be likened unto a woman giving birth. Right before the birth, the labor pains will come in greater intensity and shorter frequency. So what we're seeing now is the whole world focused on Israel and focused on the quote-unquote Palestinian problem, as it's called. But as you know, the Palestinians are the problem. As a Palestinian, I can tell you that my people, they are the problem. The problem is that the land was not given to the Palestinians. The land was given to Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael, as Islam will try to lay claims to. Now, the question that's on the table for the newly formed Netanyahu government is, what's the solution for this problem, this Palestinian problem, this two-state problem, where we can have Jews and Arabs and Palestinians living side by side in this state of peace and security? Make no mistake about it. The Muslims do not want to live side by side with Israel in peace and security. The Muslims want to destroy and annihilate Israel so that she is a nation no more. It's interesting, if you study Islam, that Muhammad and Saladin after him would make peace with their enemy, and then when their enemy's guard was down, as it were, then they would destroy their enemy. First, they would make peace with their enemy, and then they would destroy. Remember when Arafat was alive? He would, in Arabic, say that peace with Israel to us means the destruction of Israel. Then he would go on CNN in English and say, we want to have a peace with, with Israel. You liar. You are a liar, and you are demon possessed by the enemy who is the father of lies. It is a lie. It is not the truth. The truth of the matter is God gave the land to Israel, his people. God has a plan for Israel. The prophecies all point to Israel. The prophecies all point to Jerusalem, Israel's eternal capital. And the prophecies all point to how in the last days, at the end of time as we know it, that the whole world's attention will focus on and become obsessed with this tiny little place called Jerusalem, which happens to house the three major religions of the world. Friday, Islam; Saturday, or the Sabbath, Shabbat, Judaism, and Sunday, Christianity, more in the form of Catholicism. So you have the three major world religions, all they're focused, centered on and in Jerusalem. So what are we going to do? What's Netanyahu going to do? The pressure's on, you know. He's already, it was within minutes of his newly formed government, which he, by the way, was able to form what is now the largest government, his second time as prime minister. Within minutes of that, the whole world was on the phone. Netanyahu, what are you going to do about the Palestinian problem? What about the two-state solution? What about dividing Jerusalem so that we can live side by side in peace and security? I don't know how many of you are familiar with one Javier Solana. Well, need I say more? Some of you are looking at me, who's he? Well, I'm about to tell you. He is, I believe, one of the most, if not the most powerful men in the world today. I have photographs that I've gotten off the internet of him with every world leader. Some believe that nobody makes a move unless he gives them the green light. He is the head of the Western European Union, which ironically, interestingly, not coincidentally, is a 10-nation union. Now, there are other nations, but they are just charter members. There is a core of 10 nations that make up the Western European Union, and he's the chief. And, you know, when Sipti Livni was the prime minister after Ehud Olmert resigned, you would see Javier Solana with her quite a bit. Now Netanyahu enters the picture. Different story, changes the complexion. So I'm saying all of that to share with you this that appeared in the Israel Insider news source on Tuesday, March 17th. EU's Solana threatens Netanyahu. Two-state solution or else. Let me read you an excerpt from the article. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Javier Solana, warned on Monday that the bloc may reevaluate its ties with Israel if the Netanyahu government doesn't toe its line on talks with the Palestinians. The bloc will be ready to do business as usual, normally with a government in Israel that will continue talking for a two-state solution, Solana told reporters in Brussels before a meeting of EU foreign ministers. If that's not the case, the situation will be different, he said. Netanyahu, in speaking with the Jerusalem Post, avoided the phrase two-state solution, preferring instead words like arrangement or international obligations. He spoke of the Palestinian entity rather than the Palestinian state.